Okay, I'm trying once again to record this video that I somehow messed up. My tools are meager here, but if you read the title, you know this is about going from Qube Money to Crew Money, Crew Budget. This is about, so the handful of you that are watching this, it's very hyper specific. But let me start by saying I love Qube Money, best budgeting app I've ever used and probably will ever use. And the only reason I'm doing this video at all is because I'm in my own situation of trying to find what's going to work best for my family. The situation Qube is going through of losing their partner bank and a new partner bank deal falling through, I really feel for them, and I hate that they're going through this. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. I'm not trying to get you to go away from Qube, by the way. If you found this, you probably are already trying to look for what might be best for you. And so that's why I'm here. I looked into, there's two kind of prominent options people are talking about: Crew and Envelope. There's not a lot about both of them online, particularly not in terms of video that you can watch. And so that's my reason for showing you a little bit of what I figured out about Crew. I'll first say something about Envelope. Because of how big a fan I am of Qube and how I really want whatever I use next to be like Qube, and like what worked so well about Qube for me, I'm looking at things through that particular lens. And so my apologies to the Envelope team and the Crew team. The good thing is that Qube, Envelope, and Crew all have one very important similarity. Rather than being a budgeting app that is representing your bank and syncing your transactions and whatnot, instead of doing that, they are all three a bank and a budgeting app united in one. And so you're not manipulating a representation of your money. You are actually moving your money around. Or when a transaction goes through, it's not showing you that money moved from A to B. It is showing you money moved from here to somewhere else. And to me, that distinction was super important when we moved to Qube a couple of years ago. That change was a game changer for us, just keeping up with our budget and staying on top of things. I had a good stretch there using YNAB, and it was great, except that you have to reconcile your stuff to make sure it's not getting out of sync in some way, or making sure something didn't get double counted or missed. And it created a lot of opportunities to get behind on your budget and just get confused, and hard for multiple different types of levels of budget nerdy people to get involved in. So I'm a budget nerd. You probably guessed that. My wife is not, so finding something that works well for us both is tough. Envelope, I quickly dismissed it for what I needed because it is a debit card tied to a particular bank account that is tied to this app. They're all united. It operates like Qubeless pretty much all the time. You can have different pockets of money, but you don't have to open one in order to go purchase something. It's basically like a history of transactions that you need to categorize. You, of course, could do it as you go if you're good at keeping up with that sort of thing. But I don't like the idea, the opportunity that I can get behind, because I know I can. We've got 3 young kids, so I know that I can, and I don't want to be trying to decide whether I have enough money to spend on this or that. And because my transactions are behind, I'm behind on categorizing them. I don't know if I can actually, if I'm, if I can afford this much groceries or eating out or whatever. So Envelope for me was a no. I did do a free trial of it. I tinkered with it for a bit, and it was not, from what I could tell, not what I needed. If I'm wrong about that and you know something I don't, please let me know. I'd love to be re-educated. So Crew, I'll open the Crew app right here. It's a bank budgeting app united. They have a partner bank. Envelope has a partner bank. Similar situation to Qube, where you get a dedicated debit card, and whenever you swipe it somewhere, it takes money out of here. One of the things I kept finding videos about that made me feel like I should make one is just that I was seeing people talking about kind of reviews of the features of it, but they're not coming from the Qube perspective. In fact, a lot of people came from this perspective of family, which is probably why they're called Crew, where you could add a bunch of kids. Kids get dedicated debit cards. They seem to have some cool tools about like allowances and stuff like that. That's great. That seems to be one of their headlines, but for me, it's not. My kids are young, and I'm not looking forward to the day where they need their own debit cards. But nice to know that that feature's here. Qube had the same deal. It was nice to know that someday I could add that in. It seems to me like Crew doesn't have an annual or monthly fee unless I missed something. I was able to fully sign up, link a bank account, start creating stuff, and I've not been asked to pay them anything. It does have a high yield APY and with the ability to get bonuses. So I think standard it is 3.7% APY. You can get bonuses by referring people to the temporary, but kind of cool. Not the reason I would get it, but it's kind of cool. So the reason you are here is to see if this would work for you for coming from Qube. I will tell you that if Qube, if I didn't already say this, if Qube gets a new partner bank and everything goes back to how it was or whatever, I will certainly go back to Qube. As of recording, it is September 4th, and I'm in a situation where I'm kind of waiting to see how things go. So what I've done here is in my mind, what I've set up is a lifeboat that is ready to go as soon as I am ready to feel like I need one. Obviously, everyone has to remove their money from Qube by the 30th of September, but deciding whether I'm going to try to do the Qube Plus, I would call it Qube Lite if it were me, because it's not quite the full Qube experience, or do this. I just wanted to have this set up and ready to go. And part of the doing that was seeing if it was even possible to make this Qube-like. So here's what I've done. They have this crew checking account at the top is the your main checking account. When you start, it has there's only 3 pockets: crew checking, savings, and giving, I think. And so in a lot of their material, they talk about keeping it simple, not having that many. If you're coming from Qube, then we don't like to keep things simple. We like to be complicated for our own good. I saw another Reddit post about this. I wish I had the guy's username so I could give that person some credit. But I made a Qube for every. Sorry, terminology mix up. I'm going to keep doing that, I'm sure. I made a pocket for every Qube that I have on my Qube account, spending and savings. And goals. I think I might have forgot to do my goal ones yet, but no matter. Spending Qubes and bill Qubes, I've made a pocket for each of those. I'm not sure why they're in this order. It's neither alphabetical nor in the order I created them. So it's a bit of a mess. What I've done is I've put this little debit card emoji next to all of my pockets that are spending Qubes, spending pockets, where I will, when I open it, swipe my card somewhere or tap or whatever and close it. So what's good for you to know is that this thing works like Qube. It's not exactly the same, but it's enough like it where it works. So let's say I am at the coffee shop. You swipe in order to open that pocket, and that's what spending the money will come directly out of. What they noticed is that it doesn't automatically close. You have to close by swiping the other direction. So I'm not really sure why they do this, and I feel like they could probably pretty easily add a feature that just auto closes after a transaction. But because they work a little different than Qube, I could see that maybe be more complicated under the hood than I'm expecting. Benefit is if you are checking out or you're running a bunch of errands that would all be under the same category, then you can just leave it open. Like if you're doing home improvement and you're hitting up Lowe's and Home Depot and whatever other places in a row, you can just kind of leave that open, and it's signified by that gray card on the left there. So that's something good to notice, good to know. When you create all of these pockets, there's not a lot to it. So create new pocket, asks for the name, the initial amount, if there already be some in there. I've made a transfer, but it's just not arrived yet. It was doing $40 just to get things connected and have something to kind of mess with a little bit, but it's not arrived yet. And then a goal amount, which is optional, and that'd work great for like a goal cube or something. I put a goal amount on all of mine so that the amount that I'm desiring to have in there each month is somewhere handy. And that's what you're seeing here. These status bars, these blue status bars are, I believe, showing the goal, and just none of them have it filled in yet because there's no money in any of them. But that could be kind of nice at a glance to see not just the number of what's left, but like kind of where you're at percentage-wise at a glance. So I made all of those pockets for every cube that I have. And for the things you're spending out of and you manually open and close it, that works great. But the question then becomes about how you do a few things. How do you allocate money to all of these and how you handle bills? And so I created this pocket here called unallocated, and this is one of the things that I'm waiting for some money to arrive and my debit card to arrive. It's on the way, but it's not here yet, to see how this works, because I'm thinking that if this main crew checking account at the very top is at zero and I've allocated money to everywhere else, that if I just swipe my card anywhere, that nothing will happen. It'll get declined. I don't know that for sure, but I believe that's how it works. So my thought is that if I keep almost no money ever in the main checking account up here and put all of it in unallocated, I have a suspicion that it would work like Qube, where I can keep a reservoir in unallocated, and then Qubeless is almost like set to zero, where just swiping your card somewhere doesn't work. TBD. What I do like is that you can open a pocket, swipe, and you don't have to retroactively go catch up on all of your transactions. My understanding too about these pockets is that if I open a pocket and then I try to spend more that is in there, they will get declined. So it seems like the decline feature, which I know is kind of crazy to say. Some people think that doesn't sound like a feature, but it is. The decline feature is here. I'm figuring out exactly the parameters of it. So that's specifically for debit card transactions. They have said that they don't do that for ACH stuff at all. This will come into play more with the bills. This is similar to how Qube works, though, because if you have an ACH transaction that tries to go through and you don't have enough even in the bill cube, it'll still go through if your overall balance is enough. And so that's kind of good, because things like your car payment or your mortgage payment or rent or something, you don't want those getting declined just because of a technicality or something. If you have enough money in there, you don't want a late fee on something, right? So I can see why they did that. So I've got all of these set up, and then the way to make the bill ones work how I want them to. So here's how I figured out how to do the allocations the way I want them to. This is a cool area that Crew has that makes it very budget nerd, DIY, kind of tech savvy person here. So they've got autopilot, pocket assignments, and virtual cards. I'll say quickly, the pocket assignment thing is just how rules could work based on a certain transaction, where you could say, if, a transaction from Home Depot always is going to be home improvement, then that would help where it kind of just knows where to put things. I think this is going to make the most sense with bills, ACH related things. When my mortgage payment comes out, automatically say that came out of the mortgage pocket, and I'd only need a handful of those rules set up for that to work well, and it'd work very similar to how my bill cubes used to work. It's like the transaction happens, and then it's deciding where it goes, but it does it automatically, and it would look right once I look at everything and see, oh yes, okay, my mortgage pocket is empty because it paid. So that'd be working well for bills. I probably wouldn't use that for much else, because I want to manually decide where something's coming out of before I swipe my card. This next thing is autopilot. You can set up all sorts of these rules and triggers. They have a lot of cool ones here that they've already set up or custom, but split a paycheck into a few different ways. There's a lot of these like if this then that kind of stuff. Protecting a surplus. If you have more in a certain amount, then go move it to savings. Replenishing checking if it falls below a certain amount. Moving money to savings before it gets spent if you have some leftover money in some pockets. Rounding up purchases. Just cool stuff. This in-game purchases one is kind of interesting because it's the idea of like, for me, this wouldn't be necessary, but if you find yourself doing like little amounts in some place, like maybe you're buying a bunch of cups of coffee or something, it could be like a good way of helping you realize where money's going away in small quantities. Custom rule is what I did to set up allocating every month. If you were to make a rule of some sort, you get all these different triggers. When money deposits, then do this. When a card purchase happens on a certain card, do this. When a transaction occurs, do this. When a change in balance happens, either up or down. on a particular day of the month or week, and then manual trigger when you just tap the button. Important note, once you've created a rule and messed with it, you cannot change what the trigger is. So for example, I'm going to say manual trigger on this. So I've already said that, and now I'm going to say what I want it to do. I'm going to have it transfer some money or notify me or whatever. Once I've set that up, I can't go back and change what the trigger is, what the initiating thing is. So just know that as you're making these. So here's the insane one I made that I won't have to make again, but what took some time the first time. Manual fill 50%. The way I used Qube, on the first day of the month, I would go fill my cubes halfway, and on the 15th, I would fill my cubes the other half. And that helped with just pacing our spending, especially on certain things like groceries and eating out and that kind of stuff. So I wanted that to work the same way. I'm wanting to like not have some downtime in the way our budget's working and risk things kind of going crazy and stuff and losing all of our structure that we're used to. So what I did is I went in and created the manual trigger, and then I went through and I set what all of my pockets, what 50% of the total amount in all of them is. So it took some time, but not a lot. I mean, like I would say maybe 15 minutes to do all of those. And so this one works where you have to tap the button that says run in order to do it. What I like about that is that's exactly how I did it. I manually went in on the first, or maybe even the night before, and filled my cubes halfway. On the 14th or 15th, I went in and did it again. So this allows me to decide when, instead of, I initially thought about setting it as on the first. I like manually doing it myself for a few reasons. Depending on how the weekends fall and stuff, I would do it before. You can find ways to set that up. You could do it per week if you wanted, or you could have things divided into 25% for your pockets and then do it once a week. That could be cool. It might mess up one of your bills depending on when the bill comes out, when the charge happens. But for your spending stuff, that would be perfect. Okay, last thing. This is where the bills stuff really comes into play to try to make it act similar to Qube. You have virtual cards, and what I've done here is created a virtual card for every bill that I have that will actually take a card number, not ACH, because they do not have a way of doing virtual account numbers. You have one account number for your whole deal, but you can have virtual cards. So when you set one of these up, let's pretend I'm going to set up another one for my monthly Apple family subscription stuff for our iCloud and our Apple Music and stuff. So I would say it's not a single use card. It's not a free trial card, even though that's a cool feature that they have. It's a custom virtual card. And then you select which pocket it is like tied to, so that when this card number gets charged by whatever, that it will be coming out of where. So you could just say your general checking account, which would kind of defeat the purpose of it, I guess, in some ways, unless you're doing a free trial kind of card and you want it to end. But if you are going to tie it to a particular bill like I am, I want it to come out of this pocket. This pocket has a finite amount of money in it. And if this tries to go up in price, I will know about it and won't go through. Or if one of my family members tries to add something on or whatever, it won't just be able to go up and increase. I know for some people this seems a little unnecessary, but I like having all these subscriptions be very controlled. And so it's tied to that, and you can go to advanced. You could say there's a monthly limit. You could say when it will automatically cancel. To my understanding, the monthly limit thing would be maybe you have a bunch of virtual cards all set to one bill pocket. Something I was realizing, like, you could probably put all your bills that are paid via debit card. You probably have all of those in one pocket if you wanted, but have separate virtual cards for them and have a set monthly limit for what that particular bill can be, and then it wouldn't be able to go over that. This would also be useful if you were trying to set up a card for something and not overspend on the card itself, but the pocket would have more money in it for other things. So yeah, just a few ways you can do that. You can see how you could really over customize this whole deal if you wanted to. So I've done that for all of these. These are all bills that I can go in and I plug a debit card in, and it'll be specific to this. It'll work just like Qube. I won't have to go manually open a pocket. It will be able to charge these and let it go through as long as there's money in that pocket that it's tied to. So, and like I said, ACH things will go through as long as you have enough money in all of your accounts, and you can set up a pocket assignment to where your mortgage, rent, car payment, whatever, goes straight. It connects that transaction to that pocket every time. And so that's something you can do as you've had transactions happen. You can go do that. And yeah, so this is most of it. This is what I was wishing I had a video to show me that it's possible to do, to get like 85% of the way to Qube by using Crew. And there's some things it has that, Qube doesn't have. Like it has a Plaid integration that's, I think it's the full Plaid integration, not just a one way. But I'm not 100% on that. When you go to menu, you can see things like where you can look at your linked bank accounts. When you go to link another one, it uses Plaid to do that. When it's got your statements and documents and stuff, but also has like a month in review sort of area where if I had anything to show, it would do a more user-friendly review of transactions and whatnot. Settings, there's some things like you and your partner's cards notify each other. That works like Qube. Also, your own card notifies you every time. Also works like Qube, something I'm used to seeing kind of like every transaction hit that happens. But you can kind of customize that a little more. And I think that is pretty much it. So if you have any questions or comments or anything that I said about Crew and you know better than I do and you know something I said is incorrect, please let me know. Question about something I didn't investigate that I can tinker with for you, let me know. If you know something about envelope or Qube that I got incorrect too, let me know. And let me reiterate that I'm not wishing anyone leaves Qube. Just if you're here, I hope you're someone who's kind of like me, looking for what will be best for their family for a month or two, while Qube's not at its full potential kind of thing, not able to operate at its max. I wouldn't have tried anything else. I don't remember if I said this already, but Qube is kind of like everything I wanted after the initial speed bumps of integrating it. I had no real requests. People would talk about features they wanted, and I didn't really need any different features. So truly, I would not have ventured out and tried anything else if Qube wasn't in a limbo state right now. But that being said, there's always a chance that trying this, kind of being forced to do it, definitely makes me feel really hopeful and a lot less nervous about just the future and kind of putting all your stock into one company. There's other tech out there like this. Both Crew and Envelope have these contracts with their partner banks that have several years on them before they're up for renewal and stuff. So they're not about to have the same thing happen, but it's not impossible, right? And I think that's about it. Again, please comment your questions and thoughts, and I hope this is helpful for you. My plan as September gets closer to the end, depending on what goes on with Qube and how the like Qube Lite version looks and stuff like that, I will make my decision about whether I jump over here or not. But I kind of wanted this fully set up to be ready, and so around when the 20th rolls around or something like that, I'll probably pull all my money from Qube and figure out what to do from there. I'll probably tinker with their light version if it comes out in time and I can mess with it. And so the last thing I need to do is basically I would need to change my direct deposits, move all my money over here, and then the last thing would just be taking all those virtual card numbers, and go plug those into the bills that I have that take debit cards, and then I'd be good to go. Of course, I'd have to slowly manually update my main debit card number for like manual purchases, but that already happens every few years when you get a renewed card anyway. So I think that's about it. Yeah, thanks for watching this, and I hope that you find something that works for you in your situation, and that you, whether it's Crew or Envelope, or you stick with the Qube Lite version or whatever, that you can find works best for you. And I hope this is helpful in your decision making. Thanks so much.